This is the opposite. Okay, now part of this and this whole section, I call this technology because
technology.
No. If your ology, I see you're a little younger than me, but the ology show, he did a whole thing on technology, and that's pretty much what this whole segment is. So here is a figuring out how to deploy a massive network of fake local news websites to weaponize CRT. Now, this is indie left bad. This is like, you remember the episode of Knight Rider with the evil Michael Knight and the evil Kit? This is the evil indie left right here. This is the evil. This is the opposite of what we do here. Now, check this out. On Tuesday night, Glenn Youngkin, and by the way, Judd Legum, Tesnim, Rebecca, Popular Information, freaking outstanding. One of my all-time faves. They win awards for accountability journalism. They're on the up and up. So Tuesday night, he gets elected the governor of Virginia at 9:15. Garrett Lansing, the president of Win Red, which is their main online fundraising group. That's like basically Act Blue for Republicans.
Yeah.
He says, okay, here's the story that started it all. All hail Ian D. Pryor. Let's effing go, Governor Glenn Youngkin, right? And that's coming from
doesn't sound great.
Yeah, that's probably not. Yeah. So what is West Nova News? West Nova? What is that? West Nova News, and what does it have to do with Ian Pryor, the former spokesperson for Jeff Sessions? This is where things get interesting. This is a freaking crazy story. Everybody needs to check this one out. West Nova appears to be a local standard news website, right? It's not. Rather, it's part of a massive network of websites linked to conservative businessman Brian Timpone. We'll find out who he is later. There are more than 1,300 sites currently in the network, including at least 28 that operate in Virginia alone. The sites in Virginia look identical and feature much of the same content. Most of the articles don't have a byline and are automatically generated. They're clickbaity crap. Look at this.
Yeah.
All right. Go back here. Timpone has a long history of leveraging low-cost automated story generation. A previous company run by him, Journatic, attracted national attention and outrage for faking bylines and quotes for plagiarism. Right? Journatic was rebranded Locality Labs and is now part of the Metric Media Network, which operates the 1,300-plus local news sites. Metric Media boasts that it produces over 5 million news articles every month, and it's claimed to be the largest producer of local news in the United States. Oof, this is like Sinclair Broadcasting on crack, guys.
Crack.
Yeah. All right. West Nova News and the other sites in the network have little advertising and no subscription fees. The Columbia Journalism Review linked funding for sites in the network to the dark money ATM of the conservative movement and a Catholic political advocacy group that launched a $9.7 million campaign in swing states against Joe Biden. Which, the only people with that kind of money to launch a campaign against Joe Biden are going to be hardcore right-winger. Because moderate right-wingers love him. I mean, he got 100 billionaires to donate to him, so they must be. Usually it's fundamental Christians, and it's usually because they're going to oppose any Democrat on.
Now, Senator Roy Brunt sounds like a good guy. You know?
Yeah, because his last name's Blunt, not a good guy.
Blunt. Yes.
But donations aren't the only way Media Metric Network funds it, and this is where Ian Pryor enters the story. An investigation last year by the New York Times found that Metric Media sites operate a pay-to-play system. In 2020, a freelance journalist was paid $22 to write an article calling out Sarah Gideon, a Democrat running for a hotly contested U.S. seat in Maine, as a hypocrite. After the story was published in the Maine Business Daily, which is part of their network, the freelancer received an email saying the client, who ordered the article, had requested she add, quote-unquote, more detail. Well, what does that mean? The client was Ian Pryor, who also ordered articles promoting Lindsey Graham and Roy Blunt. Pryor, a longtime Republican operative, previously worked for the Senate Leadership Fund, a Republican PAC which spent millions on ads to defeat Gideon. Well, of course they do. Okay, in this way, Pryor and other clients use the network to launder partisan attacks as news. It's really funny because Jimmy Dore was just talking about how nobody reads the whole article. Nobody goes through the goddamn article. Guess what? This one we have to go through.
Us.
Because this one's super important. Okay? Quotes from sites, the Mediametric Network can then be used to source in it can be used in political mailers. This is where it gets really weird, right? Quotes from sites in the Metric Media Network can then be used in political mailers or in television ads with the authority of a neutral source. In some cases, the publications themselves are delivered unsolicited to doorsteps. The clients pay Metric Media to thousands to produce news that meets their specifications. They're propagandists. Okay? Pryor is not listed as the author of the story in the West Nova News. The byline is listed as staff reports, nor is he quoted in the article himself. Lansing, however, links Pryor to the article he claims started it all. Why? That's kind of weird. So, no, not really, because he paid for it. The piece that that Lansing references, published in September 2020, is one of the first to claim that critical race theory is infiltrating Virginia schools. It claims that Loudoun Public Schools has spent almost $500,000 in taxpayer funds training staff on critical race theory. This is false. The money was allocated to create an equity plan and provide related services to help implement the plan. The initiative was created in response to a Loudoun County school that played an Underground Railroad game in which an African-American child in the class was designated a slave for the activity.
Oh, God.
That's why the money was being spent in the first place. Critical race, teaching people to not treat their fellow students as slaves.
Yeah.
And then okay, neither the contract for the plan nor the plan itself mentions critical race theory. It does talk about strategies to ensure student growth and success for every child. Okay. This includes the recruitment and retention of a high-performing, diverse workforce, which the West Nova news story describes as hiring fewer white teachers. Okay. A few weeks later, in October, an article written by Pryor that cited all the same underlying documents, accompanied by an even harsher political rhetoric, was published in The Federalist, a far-right website. So this is what they did at a presidential level to start Iraq, right? Like, they planted a story with the New York Times, and they went out and said, well, look, the New York Times is saying it. Look, it must be true. Where'd they get it from? And, I mean, this is essentially what's happening here. They're paying for a story, then the publication comes out, and then they use it in something else, going, well, look what this publication said. It's gross.
Yep. Standard, media terribleness.
All right, so according to Vice, these documents were obtained by Pryor through a FOIA Act request. Pryor lives in Loudoun County. So when he's asked to provide an example as to how critical race theory is reflected in Loudoun County instruction, he said his second grade tutor was taught about Christopher Columbus's genocidal history. He got his feet hurt. This year, Pryor founded Fight for Schools, a group pushing parents to fight critical race theory and organizing recalls of school board members that oppose its agenda. Pryor and the Fight for Schools are also a member of the American Schools Coalition, which operates the CRT Central website. Again, more of a tangled web, but this gets even weirder. This is a longer article, and I need to get through it because this gets even crazier because people are ending up. You'll see. Popular Information Investigation reveals that in 2021, Metric Media published thousands of articles promoting the notion that critical race theory is taught in Virginia schools. Many, but not all of these articles are automated. Nationwide, tens of thousands of articles about critical race theories have been published across the Metric Media Network. That number is growing every day. The network is positioned to be a powerful tool in injecting CRT into the 2022 campaign under the guise of quote-unquote local news. This is also part of why they're trying to infiltrate school boards. Right? So here, this gets a little deeper, that the analysis found that between January and November of this year, the 28 local news sites, quote-unquote, in Virginia published over 4,500 articles about CRT in school. Many of these are automated, that reference an obscure online pledge to teach CRT from the Zinn Education Project, which is only like one of the most brilliant freaking things that in the 20th and 21st century that actually calls out imperialism. I mean, it should be taught in schools. So, yeah. So here's what some of them look like. And they are right-wing reactionary, and they're designed to engender a response that gets people upset. What are they teaching our kids? Pledging number of teachers stagnates at 1. So they're making it sound like the school is trying to implement this and the teachers are resisting it. And that's just not what's happening. Again, this was all in response to the fact that one of the schools held a slave auction for one of its African-American students. It's the grossest of the gross. And then they're using this as a vehicle to attack CRT. There does not appear to be any verification that the signers of the pledge are actually teachers. None of them are teachers. Nor does the pledge even mention critical race theory. Rather, it opposes legislative measures the group believes prohibit teachers from teaching the truth about this country. Which is what exactly? These bills are often described as efforts to ban critical race theory, but prohibit instruction of a broad array of topics. Other articles don't appear to be automatically generated and include bylines. At the end of October, Old Dominion News, a Metric Media site based in Virginia, posted an article that highlighted Ian Pryor and the work of the Fight for Schools. This article is featured on the homepage of the CRT Central website. So again, he's paying for legitimacy out of this network of media sites and then referencing that media site as a credible source, never disclosing the fact that he's the one, of course, that paid for that.
Yep.
Right. The article discussed his involvement in the ongoing conflict. Right here. Okay. That he's a parent. But again, it addressed his prior initiative to scrub the Loudoun School Board of members who joined parents and teachers in a Facebook group called Anti-Racist Parents of Loudoun County. So basically, it's a trap designed to do exactly the opposite of what it says, which is quite often, unfortunately, what Republicans seem to do very well in their messaging, is they figure out how to manipulate and weaponize racism, for example, and call anti-racism, but though it's a racist behavior on its own, because you're trying to whitewash what we did in this country, because it hurts their fifis. It's inconvenient, especially the residents of Virginia. Sorry, Virginia, but it's just true.
Yep.
So, according to Pryor, the school board members who were part of the Facebook group should be removed from the school board for being part of a private, viewpoint-restricted Facebook group and trying to silence and intimidate those in the community that object to politicizing our schools. I'm actually a member of an inclusive parents group in my local town as well on Facebook, and I would hope that all of my school board members would want to be a part of that. Now, I don't think that they are, and my town is actually undergoing a big fight under the school boards, and that's happening nationwide, and it's not an accident, and it's being done at a coordinated effort, and Judd and Popular Information have been reporting on that as well. This is an offshoot of how they use a private media vehicle to manipulate and start to propagandize and get a message out there effectively, unfortunately. It's dirty, it's gross, but it also works. Okay? So, yeah. So he also has an organization called Convention of States. Yeah, that doesn't sound too fishy.
No.
What wasn't that like what they called the Confederacy?
Very similar.
Yeah, I seem to think that is exactly what they called it. So, Volunteers for the Convention of States, a grassroots organization, is no exception. Beginning it this summer, it joined in criticizing board policies that it says discusses Marxism and CRT. So, again, Marxism thrown in. Heaven forbid you actually get educated to an actual writer. So here's what's really weird. Okay. So we've really been talking about Virginia so far. So Convention of COS is a client of SMG, a political consulting firm. Bradley Cameron is the CEO of SMG and the general manager of Metric Media. So this guy is consulting with SMG, with Convention of States, okay, which is this guy prior, okay, yeah. But he's also the general manager of Metric Media. Hey, man, let me teach you, and then I'm going to use my media arm to actually promote your smears.
I feel like you need one of those crazy like pin walls with the red string over everything, and
you don't even need that because this is just a straight line. Because here's
line.
Check this out. So fake local news sites push this. Okay, so this is like an Instagram post that he put up, and look at the states that they're targeting.
Yeah,
swing states.
Florida. Yep.
They're targeting swing states specifically. They're doing this only in those places to propagandize people in those markets, and they're going to be flooded with content, and that's what he's going to talk about. In Texas, at least 39 local news sites affiliated with Metric Media published almost 12,000 articles containing the phrase critical race theory this year. Okay? As is the case with Virginia, a vast majority of these articles reference the online pledge to not teach critical race theory. Right? The online pledge that we don't even know who signed it. There's also several other stories that focus on initiatives by Convention of States. Houston Daily. Wow, they sound very official. They sound very, very mainstreamy. An outlet in the network published a piece on October 29th titled Convention of States Survey Helps Constituents Decide for Themselves in Upcoming School Board Elections, COS president says. Complete propaganda. Paid for by the propagandist and then sold by another propagandist. Again, this gets into Tea Party Patriots, former interim CEO of Parler. Yeah, Mark Meckler gets involved. He's the Convention of State. He's the COS president. So now you're getting the red line. Now we're starting to get to your Charlie red lines, Judd, right?
Yep.
So here's another Metric Media outlet. The Granite State Times up in New Hampshire published a story titled, the headline, New Hampshire Legislator, Classic Marxist Trick at the Root of Critical Race Theory. So again, they're trying to scare people because people have been propagandized their whole lives against even knowing what Marxism is or what socialism is, or opening their minds to the fact that they live in a socialist society already. Yeah, pretty wild. So the Granite State Times published that story, right? Classic Marxist trick. At the root of critical race theory is a Marxist doctrine that separates society into oppressors and oppressed. He noted that the bill was modeled after Trump's executive order on banning diversity training. So let's follow the Trump model. That's a good idea, sure.
Great idea.
2,100 articles in New Hampshire across 6 Metric Media sites. So not as much of a spread because they're not going to get you're in the Northeast, you're New England state. But as they move south, you can see between Virginia and Texas and Florida, they're spending a ton of money. In Ohio, Popular Info found there were 6,200 articles. So it's literally going state by state. So good.
Crazy.
Oh man. Wait. I don't know. That's just a separator, I guess.
Broken link.
I thought there was another part of this that, and maybe I'm linking this to another thing where, you know what it is? Oh, it's a creepy article I was reading about. Yeah, it's not this. Nextdoor. And I am going to actually get to that later. That's one of the stories that we're going to talk about next.
That's where like Karens yell at all their neighbors about having like,
pay match,
but out in public.
But it's going to get worse than that.
Well, you better get hip to indieleft.news.